Sean, like what about students that are not competing? What are some areas that they could confront that nervousness in? Like they're taking these lessons from the dojo, and how do you impart those lessons to people who are not going to tournaments? But and before you answer, like, by the way, that's exactly why I was competing. Like growing up in New York City in the 1970s and like by myself, like as a kid, everything was just dangerous. And it made me so nervous. And like I didn't want to live with that. And that's exactly why I started competing, so I can confront that. And I think you're dead on. I think it's like the more you do it and you learn how to process that fear. But what if someone's not, I'm sure you have students that are not competing, or maybe, they're in their 40s, or, they're kind of moving past that era in their life. Like what are some of the things you're saying to them that, like, if they're not going to the tournaments?
Well, just even during a belt graduation, if you
Mm-hmm.
have a good size audience that kind of, put out there on the spot by themselves,
Mm-hmm.
needing to perform in front of everybody, and it's kind of a big deal. So things like that, when it's the karate side of it, putting them on the spot out there,
Right.
having we have a lot of different instructors here. So, I teach specific classes. My husband teaches different ones, and we have other instructors. So sometimes we'll just throw another instructor in there for,
Oh, right.
to break it up. And it's kind of like, they get very comfortable with a certain instructor. And
Right.
then, I stand in front of them or someone else stands in front of them and they get all flabbergasted and then,
Right.
start stumbling. um and then like with the Krav Maga classes I teach, I like to just kind of call you out and be like, all right, you're in the middle and you're going to get randomly attacked, and
Right.
it's not like, all right, we're practicing chokes or we're practicing bear hugs or something like that. You don't know what's coming, so you might get a gun in your face, you might, and just put them under pressure like that. And I think things like that help them not to be as nervous. It's practicing it not in a competition sense, but that they're practicing it, or even doing demos. Sometimes we'll do demos, and you can tell the ones that don't compete how
Right.
nervous they get.
Yep. 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 There, so the pressure is what actually gives everybody access to kind of handling that. I know a lot of students, they run from that. And what I'm hearing is like, no, you got to face it in that. Well, I always tell them that the dojo is the safest place to do it. That's the place you come to work this stuff out at.
Right,
You know,
right.
Shion, like, so can I ask you, what's like the major thing that you want your students to learn? Like
I want
yeah, go ahead.
I want them to learn that they can accomplish anything that they set their mind to.
Beautiful.
That I want them to gain that confidence that if they work hard, when I first started teaching and I had some incredible students, my husband would tell me, don't get too excited there, because that's the one that's probably going to be out the door, in another couple weeks, because they're athletic and it comes easy to them, and they'll be doing some other sport, or they don't appreciate it as much as the ones that are
Work
struggling
hard.
with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's like, see that kid over there or that adult over there that, is very unorthodox and, uncoordinated. And
That
that's
was me.
probably going
That
to
was
be a
me.
champion. And I'm like, really?
Yeah.
Really? So it's a lot of times it's just the people that really listen and understand that, they just keep pushing away, and they really want it and they work hard, that end up sticking with it, whether it's karate or anything else. Um, but, just trying to instill that into my students, and that they can take that anywhere. It's not just,
Right.
how what their success will be in the martial arts, but their success in work or in school or in another sport. That all they have to do is put the time in, and work hard and believe in themselves and gain that confidence. So, and I know our school, you'd be surprised. I think we have less than maybe 7% that compete. So
Right.
we have a good competition team, maybe like 20 people, but not everyone competes, so it's dealing with trying to help them reach their other type of goals if it's not competition. So
I I found that, there's a kind of shelf life to competing.
yes,
It can be great, um, in that period of one's life. But, I remember Mr. Vizio telling Mr. Perez, Her Perez, like after he won the Olympics, he's like, now you got to stop. He's like, you can never give someone, like, you can't let them say they beat the Olympic gold medalist. Like, your time is over. And to Mr. Perez's credit, he did. Like I see all these UFC guys, right? Like Chuck Liddell was at the top, and like he had one knockout and it was over. Like his reputation, he's still a great champion. He's still, like, I think, beloved in the public eye, but he no longer has that like thing about him. Hoist Gracie too. Like Hoist, when he was winning the UFC, like in '93 and '94, I think he had this kind of lore about him. He was a legend. And then he lost and that thing left. And
hmm
so, it has a kind of shelf life to it. If you're not one of these people that like are going on forever and just don't, you start losing, and it has this thing, right? So that period, when that period it's short, when it's over, the martial arts has so much more to give a student and a practitioner. And
yes,
I really love that. I really think, like, when I was a kid, I wasn't so interested in competing. I went to a dojo that was in the back of a laboratory. My brother was a scientist and he was in karate, very much like your story. Although it wasn't a bakery, it was in the back of a lab. It smelled like formaldehyde. No, I'm just kidding. So, but there were 6 guys there training on a tile floor. There was no heat, no water in this building. And like what I wanted from the martial arts then was a sense of confidence. Was like I just didn't have it. I was scared. I was a scared young teenage kid, 12 years old. And then the competition thing happened, and I took it as far as I wanted to go. And then what else was there? And like I just think that the martial arts is such a beautiful um way to live one's life that has so much power for every stage that we're at. And now, like I feel like I don't know if you feel this way, but like as my body is changing, as I'm maturing, I'm having to relearn a lot of the things that I once knew and had, like my reverse punch or my front kick. It's subtly changing. So I'm having to kind of revisit it. And that's a whole new, beautiful experience. Like it opens up so many doors for me mentally. And
yes,
and so, like, yeah, I know, like 7 or 8 or 10%, like you're a world champion and you have these students that want to do that. But the majority of people, I'm sure, are coming because of what the martial arts that you and your husband and the other instructors at the dojo are teaching and what it's giving to their life. I
right.
just think it's beautiful. Um,
It is. It's a lifelong journey, and never ending, and never you never learnt it all. You can
right.
always learn more.
Yeah, like that's just so amazing that a person who has been at the top of the world stage, like the best of the best, still says like, "Yeah, I can learn more." Like, and it's a lifelong practice. Maybe this is not a fair question, but I certainly see myself doing the martial arts for the rest of my life. Do you share that?
Yes. Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Sometimes my husband will say, "So when do you think we're going to retire?" I'm like, "I'm never going to retire.
And
I want
that's a
to. I want to still keep teaching forever."
Yeah, it's like a death sentence, right? Like I would never think. May I ask you, like, what's your favorite thing about the martial arts? What's the thing that you love most about it?
um, I think one of the things I like the most is being a female and being a smaller person than a lot of opponents is being able to learn how you can use your body and your leverage. And, like, it's always cool when pick up pick someone up that's twice your size, or
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
you
Yeah.
take someone down, or you're my size and you're sparring, and
You
you can knock the
sidekick
wind out
them.
of a
Yep.
guy.
Yep.
Yeah,
You
you knock
fold
the
them in
wind out of a
half.
guy.
Right.
So, like, being a smaller person, it's nice to learn the mechanics, and how you can use your body and do specific techniques, whether it's wrist lock type of moves, or throws, or just sparring, and using that person's weight against them because they're blitzing in, and now you just doubled the power of that
Right.
sidekick because you
Right.
just
Caught them.
timed it.
Yeah. It's so poetic. It's so poetic. I tell, see, I have to compensate a little bit because I'm a bigger person. And, when I teach karate or when I teach jujitsu, I always try to use, I'm always trying to use like smaller people in the classroom as examples who have really great technique to show people that this is what you're after. Like like it's easy to look at me and go, "Oh, he's big. He gets to do this stuff." And that's not the art of it. The art of it is the leverage, the technique, the efficiency of it all. And I love that you said that. I love that you said, like, as a smaller person, which for me equates to everyone. Like, everyone can do the martial arts,
Right.
and everyone can succeed at the martial arts, which is another very important point. I had asked you in the questions that I sent for the pre-interview, like, if you would touch on how did you navigate being a woman in like this kind of ultra male environment, especially in the 80s. I think it may be a little bit different now. I'm not so sure. And before you answer, I just want to preface that I had said to you, I struggle being a male teacher with female students. Like, I don't want to be like the guy that's preaching to women that doesn't know about women's, what women are going through in the martial arts. Like, I can't pretend that I do. And I said to you, I want to give voice to the women in the dojo, and through you, hopefully, like, I hope that doesn't sound pretentious or rude, but like, that, like, how did you manage it? How did you come out on top? What do you think about in terms of like the longevity of your training as it relates to training with all these men and having this kind of dominant male attitude in the dojo, if that applies?
Well, I would say when I first started, I was one of very few females in the school at the time, and then like, it's been challenging, but I feel very proud that I think I have helped pave the way for other females in the martial
Yes,
arts
yes,
through
absolutely.
whether it's through competition or as instructors. Our school's probably at least 50-50 male, female, if not maybe more females in the
Bravo,
school,
bravo.
which is great,
Great.
but back then it was a struggle. I mean, because I would go to tournaments, and I mean, I remember going to a tournament, and I won my fighting division, and in a woman's black. But this was up in Maine, so um, kind of tells you the town and type of neighborhood I was in, and
Right.
the Taekwondo grandmaster that was running the event said, "Oh, now she has to fight the winner of the men's fighting."
Oh my
My
gosh.
husband says, "No, she's not fighting the winner of the men's." Like, are you nuts? And that's a no-win situation. I
No
mean,
win, no win.
the guy would look bad if he lost, and he'd look like
A
a bully
jerk
if
if
he
he
beat me.
won. That's right. That's
Yeah.
right.
So, so just going through things like that, being, always having men on the cover of magazines,
Right.
or always having men being featured with different things, or not having the women's division separated, and so a lot of things that I saw through the years that have definitely made huge changes since I was first competing and or teaching or training.
Right.
And I think being not many women in the school, we didn't have a choice. It wasn't like, okay, you pair up. I don't know if my husband he never did that where like, all right, you work with the one girl that's in the classroom. He never did that. I don't know really what was going through his head at the time, if he just all looked at us all equal and not as male female. But I was always working with men, and I think that made me so much stronger as a fighter and everything else. And I try not to put, if I have a full class, I try not to say, okay, you two girls work together, you two guys work together. I think they should interchange a lot
Right.
too. It is probably more of a benefit for the female of getting grabbed or punched at or sparring with a male, because of the fact that um, it benefits
It's
it
hard.
benefits us to have someone bigger and
Right.
stronger.
Right.
And I think when you get into the ring with any female after fighting, 6 foot guys all the time, it's like, oh, I mean, how bad can this be? I mean, she
After
can't,
after
she can't do any damage compared to what I've been through,
yeah, after being in a ninja suit where Hakeem Alston hit you
Yeah,
with an axe kick, right?
yeah,
By the way, he was
yeah,
huge, right? He was like 6'4", 6'5", something like that,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah,
He's very tall.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, I think it just made me stronger, and I always remember that I don't want to single out women to stay with women all the time in
hmm
class and stuff,
hmm
because I think it's important for them to get that experience with the males. Um, and it's just as a school owner, it was a challenge because when I was first coming up, I was in college and I was traveling the national circuit all over the place, competing in California and Washington State and just all over the place. And my husband's like, "This is getting expensive." We still weren't married at the time, but we were a couple. And he's like, "This is really getting expensive. I mean, you gotta do something. We gotta get some kind of job." And so I ended up opening our first commercial school.
right.
So he still had his. He was a fisherman, commercial shell fisherman during the day in the
Uh-huh.
morning, and then he taught martial arts at night. But it was
Wow.
still a private school,
Uh-huh.
and so he convinced me to open up a little storefront dojo, and that
Where
would
was
be.
that?
It was in Warwick, Rhode Island,
Uh-huh.
and it
Uh-huh.
was, um, I want to say like 85.
Wow.
So I opened up, and we still had separate schools, so I didn't have his face there when people walked in the door. It was
Uh-huh.
me,
Uh-huh.
and for the longest time, I was like, God, I can't. If someone calls and asks for information, that I would, and it's a guy, I'd say, yeah, I teach an adult class at 7 o'clock. Come on in,
Uh-huh.
and then it'd be like click. I would never see the person. So then I started to learn, okay, I'll act like a secretary. So I just say, yes, that there is an adult class at
Right.
7
Right.
o'clock.
Right. 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 Right.
You can come in and meet the instructor. And, so then they would get there and they would see me teaching a class full of men, that are being very respectful and appreciative of your knowledge. And that's how I kind of had to get them in the door at first, because they didn't want to hear anything about a female instructor.
Certainly. Certainly.
But it's a lot. I think it's really changed in that aspect as well. I mean, I don't think anyone bats an eyelash of, having a female or a male instructor when it comes to martial arts. They just want to train with someone that
I,
knows what they're doing.
if they're smart, like a lot, well, we're talking to one who absolutely knows what she's doing, it's like if a male is smart, they'll learn from the person who knows, whether they're male or female. I think it's
Right.
so back to it, like, so I'm hearing like what you're saying is that and I don't want to put words in your mouth, so correct me if I'm wrong, but like for your advice to women is like, just stick to it. Like deal with what men are bringing to the table, and you're going to get stronger for it.
Yes, yes, and make the changes. Be the person that's out there, pushing to get equality, or um, whatever it is that you're looking for as far as in the martial arts with and men and
Right.
women. We promote a big tournament, and sometimes we'll get people that'll say, well, you're not giving the same prize money to the women as the men. And I say, I'm a female,
Right.
and I 100% would want complete equality. But if you only have 10 or 15 women in the women's black belt, like we have an
Division.
open,
Right.
yeah, we have what they call an open weight. So it doesn't matter if you're lightweight or heavyweight, everyone goes in one division. It's just an extra division that they do.
Right.
And, we had like 15 or 18 women last year. In the men's, it was like 60 something,
Right. Right.
So it's
Right.
like you can't compare the two. It's not the matter of the ability of the two winners or the talent or anything else. It's just.
This is right on to why I'm asking, is because like I'd like to see more participation in the martial arts from everybody. And I think like maybe in some environments women maybe, but like are getting edged out, or men don't know how to relate to some women in their classrooms, and maybe women feel anonymous. Maybe I got a better question for you. What would you say to a male teacher on how to teach women martial arts? Like maybe that's a more interesting question. Like what would be important for you?
I think I would tell a male instructor to treat the women just like the men.
Uh-huh.
Don't. I don't think that women should be babied or treated any differently.
Uh-huh.
And I'm always like, like when I'll do a class, it'll drive me nuts when women first come in and they want to like put their knees down doing push-ups or doing certain things. It's
Right.
like, no, that's just there's no difference of a guy putting their knees down or a woman putting their knees down. Like you got to learn to get, strengthen those arms and strengthen but we try to be sensitive to the fact that they don't have that confidence yet
Right.
or
Right.
that strength yet. So, but I do tell them, don't treat them any differently. Um, you know, and and now today's society, you have to be careful if you're, doing ground and pound and,
Right.
and you're
Right. Right.
rolling
Right.
around on the ground. You
Right.
don't want to put a woman in an awkward position with a
Right.
guy.
Certainly.
But when it's stand up and stuff, of course, just explained that it's only going to benefit them to work with someone
Beautiful.
who's bigger or stronger. And, I think the biggest thing is just not treating them differently, but they are different,
Yeah.
they are different. And, sometimes women come in and they, they could be, we've had girls come that are pregnant and they
Right.
can't
Right.
make contact and
Right.
do stuff, for a
Right.
while and stuff. So, you do have your differences there with challenges, but
I'm hearing that it's fluid, that like don't treat anybody differently, and then also be aware that there are some times when people need a little bit of extra care. Something like
right.
that, right? Like it's a fluid thing. It's an artful thing.
Yes. Yes. And just knowing your students, you know, eh, what their challenges are,
Yeah.
some have, a house full of kids that they got to go home and deal with when they and so that they definitely have different challenges there.
Right,
So
right, right. Shion, we were talking about your tournament. When is your tournament? It's coming up this year, and when is it? Can you give us a little plug for it?
sure, it's April 5th, 6th, and 7th of 2024, and it's in Rhode Island. And we're one of the NASCAR World Tour events. So there's 13 tournaments throughout the country, and I should say North America, because there are two in Canada.
Right.
So we're one of the 13 tournaments, and people from all over the world come in to try to win the title here. And, every year we have a different special guest. We've had Chuck Norris in twice. We had Billy Blanks in, and Shannon Lee, and Bill Wallace, and Don Wilson, and Chuck Zito. We've had a lot of different special guests in, and this year we have Zolt Marati coming in, who is a retired member of Team Paul Mitchell, but he's the one that broke my record. For the longest time, I had the W.A.K.O world record on winning the most gold medals.
That's right.
And he just beat it a few years ago, winning his 10th, which...
Congratulations to him, but blah. Walter, our producer, gave us a thumbs up on Chuck Norris. He's a big Chuck Norris fan. So am I, by the way. And then
yes.
I did jujitsu with Chuck Zito for a little bit. That was a very interesting and fun experience. It was like looking at my alter ego. Xian, this has been amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you for being so open and generous and wonderful. And thank you for being one of my very most, the biggest martial art heroes in my life. And really thank you for just influencing me to be better and your students to be better, and such a wonderful representative of the martial arts. Thank you for everything.
Thank you for the kind words, and I'm a fan as well with you. So
thank you.
I appreciate the honor. It's an honor being on the podcast here, and I wish you lots of luck. And
thank you.
I hope I'll see you in person again soon.
Yeah, we'll see you at the Durkin's WeichiCon again next year.
Yes, for sure.
Well, thank you. Oh, and I want to just say, you had asked me during the week, it's Super Bowl Sunday, will you be watching the Super Bowl? And I was like, nope. I'm a martial arts guy, and I'm so happy to be spending this Sunday with another lover of the martial arts and just phenomenal practitioner. Thank you. Love you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Love you back.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Gentle Art Podcast. Please share, rate, and review. And if you have any questions or you'd like to reach out, please contact us at thegentleartpodcast@gmail.com, or contact us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, or thegentleartpodcast.com.